China has altered their playbook, at least temporarily this week. There's been a massive surge of light blues and blues moving the market lately. But hear me out, because the math on why that's not as stupid as it sounds is the same math that Wall Street traders use to value penny stocks. And it should change the way how you think about this market and the market manipulation that occurs within it.
And now for our Counter-Strike report. New York's very own Mike Water.
Welcome back to DE News China. I'm your host, Mike Water 9. Happy Good Friday, and we will be live tonight on Twitch, in which we look at specific individual plays more in depth. If you're interested in that, feel free to tune in. Without further ado, though, let's get into the more general news. 7 out of the top 10 movers this week were pistols, which is a continuation of the trends in which we saw last week and the week before, albeit a little bit more subdued. This week is primarily pistols. And a lot of these pistols, they're tending to be light blues, and grays within older collections. Now, upon first glance, if you're using basic data, you might dismiss some of these plays as complete nonsensical, but they actually make a lot more sense than what the surface may reveal. But first, let's shift our attention to the cases this week, which have seen a massive rise over the last 7 days. Pretty much across the board, with some more so than others, but all of them pretty much have seen a decent increase over the week in terms of pricing. Now, why does this matter in terms of China? Well, because when a case prices increase, obviously it increases its chances of its inputs, i.e. the skins within it, being pumped, right? Any increase in a case's underlying price is going to inversely affect the amount of openings happening per day, per week, etc. Right? Case is more expensive, I'll just open the cheaper case. I'm gonna get nothing anyway. So you have fewer people opening the case, which means fewer listings hitting the market 7 days from then, which means if it keeps the same amount of volume it always does, listings will start to subsequently go down, leading to increases in price, at least in the short term, but it will always match the case's underlying price. And also, with decreased openings comes decreased listings, obviously, increased price, but a better opportunity to pump a skin, right? You just have less retail players in the market, making coordinated, concentrated groups that much easier to pump the skin. It's very much a chain reaction, because these are the breadcrumbs you kind of have to chase in order to predict the next movement and not be their exit liquidity once the skins have already started to move. And this opens up different opportunities, right? Cases that were previously maybe too intimidating for pump groups to, overtake, now become that much more easy. Now, this is going to be its own video tomorrow because I feel like, there's a lot to flesh out here, a lot of different underlying reasons for this case movement beyond just increased purchasing. So I think there is something to watch out for here specifically. But as always, keep an eye on it. Watch out for, unreasonable price movements in an unreasonable amount of time. And if you're too late, look for fillers and look for outputs because those will also increase with one another. Ripple effects are not only real, but they have to happen in this market because everything is oh so connected. And thus we move back to the top 10 list, right? Oddly, despite case prices increasing, no skins within cases except for 1 or 2 are in the top 10 movers this week. The pistols are all from older collections, and they're all lower tier, light blues, grays, blues, etc. And this leads us down a path to what China's focusing on as a broad, general idea and focus. They're not chasing the new shit, they're going back to old legacy collections, in which the supply dynamics are more favorable for market manipulation. The top 3 movers of the week are all pistols. First, the 5.7 Orange Peel. Second, the USP Purple DD-Pat. And third, the P2000 Granite Marbleized. And the pattern is not one of loadouts this week or matching colors like it has in previous weeks, but rather the rarity tiers involved with these skins themselves. Most, not all, but most are lower tier rarity items. And if your knee-jerk reaction immediately is that these skins have way too high of supply to be pumped, you're thinking about the entire system wrong. So I think it's important to talk about this because supply numbers are not the end-all be-all. In fact, they should probably be one of the last things in which you look at, and allow me to explain why. Now, the first thing we have to look at is the market cap. Right? In traditional finance, market cap is defined by the amount of shares in circulation multiplied by the share's price. So let's say there's 1,000 AK Fire Serpents that are $100 each. That means 1,000 times 100. The market cap of the Fire Serpent is $100,000. Now, let's say there's 100,000 AK Safari Meshes and they're all $1. Market cap is equal to the AK Fire Serpent. Meaning that if the market cap doubles on both of these skins, right, the AK Safari Mesh and the AK Fire Serpent, they both go to $200,000. The Fire Serpent goes to $200. Safari Mesh goes from $1 to $2. A much less drastic movement, but the same amount of capital has been injected into the market and thus has had the same exact effect. If you had put $1,000 into the Fire Serpent, you would have bought 10 at $100. Now that they're $200, now you have $2,000. If you had $1,000 and you bought Safari meshes, well, you can afford 1,000 of them. So 1,000 of them times $1, $1,000, it moves to $2. Now you have $2,000. The supply is completely irrelevant to your return. What matters is the market cap and the percentage return you see on the market cap, because that is going to determine your return. So if you write off light blues because of supply numbers, you're thinking about it completely wrong. You need to alter your expectations in terms of returns based on the rarity tier, right? Your $1 Safari mesh is not going to go to $6. That would increase the market cap by $500,000, meaning someone would need to inject $500,000 into the Safari mesh market. That's not going to happen. $100,000 though, much more likely. That $1 Safari mesh is not going to go to $350. It's not going to go to $7,000. It's going to move from $1 to $350. Percentage-wise, that's a 250% return. That's the same thing as if you bought a $100 skin and it went to $350. Alter your expectations and any skin becomes a pumpable skin. The return in which you see on each individual skin, though, will be different in terms of dollar amounts based on its underlying base price when it starts. Before we get into the rest of the reasoning, a word from our sponsor, skins.com. Skins.com is the first marketplace for Westerners on Chinese CS2 skins. Purchase from an extensive list of items or insta-sell your skins and withdraw from a variety of methods, including bank transfer or crypto. For an insta-sell website, these are truly some of the best rates I've ever seen, and they are soon launching a peer-to-peer trading system to compete with some of the biggest players within the market. So why not get started now and get used to the website? Try out skins.com. Now, beyond market cap, we also have to take into account active supply. So let's take the number 3 mover on the week, the P2000 Granite Marbleized, which is from the Italy collection, right? Was actively dropped for probably 10 years. I want you to take the supply numbers on that gun and throw them in the fucking trash, because that number is completely and utterly useless. A, the supply numbers don't equate to the number of listings on the market. It's much easier to drain a gun of its listings if there's 100 of them compared to 1,000 of them. Right? It's correlated. The amount of supply has something to do with the amount of listings, but the P2000 Granite Marbleized has been a 3-cent skin for 15 fucking years. So there's a realistic chance most of them are sitting in storage units, or most of them are sitting in dormant banned accounts because the gun was useless. It didn't matter. People weren't trying to get rid of them. Accounts that'll never list this skin, but count towards the supply number. Look at listings. If the gun is not actively participating in the market, it could be effectively thrown away into the wind. And that's why you see a lot of Chinese manipulation start with tests, right? They're testing supply to see how fast the supply comes back. If the supply comes back quickly, that means the listings and the supply is active. But if it doesn't come back quickly, that means the supply is inactive, which means pumping much easier. And here's the kicker. The active supply has probably gone even down more so because of the new Steam listing rules. If you've been noticing, if you had stuff listed on the Steam market for months and months and months, like Paris stickers, and they've been randomly showing up in your inventory, well, that's because there's now a limit on how long you can list things. So all of these inactive accounts, all of these weird accounts that listed a P250 Sand Dune for $2,000 10 years ago, well, those are now being returned to those people's inventories. So that behavioral change by way of Valve is going to compress supply even more across the board entirely. And I think that helped China even spot more plays, because now they can actually look at some of the markets and see how many listings, and it's completely accurate, because now all listings have to have been listed within the last 2 months, or whatever it is, 90 days, something like that. But all the listings on the markets right now are going to be used by active players. So now you have a much more accurate picture of like what skins are actually circulating and which skins aren't. And the last reason for these light blues, grays, and blues has got to be float values, right? I think a lot of these light blues in super low floats are being pipelined into blues and thus being traded up with dead hand skins to get dead hand purples in very, very low floats, right? Sacrificing a 10% chance with each subsequent skin in order to guarantee themselves a super low float purple. That way they can game the system up into low float gloves for a cheaper input price. I think we might start to see this slow down as the terminal price continues to tend downwards, and so do knife and glove prices as well as a result. Which makes the light blue sort of a means to an end. They're not the ends themselves. So we do have a lot of plays to go off of these pistol plays, light blue plays, etc. In other news, the activity surrounding Mirage collection continues to heat up, right? As we said, number 2 spot, the purple DD pad was one of the highest movers this week. And in the top 100, Notably apparent are the MP9 Music Box and the Desert Eagle Fennec Fox, one of the main fillers for the AWP Desert Hydra, the highest rarity within the Mirage 2021 collection. On top of this, we saw a very odd price movement regarding souvenir packages for Mirage in the last couple of days, 48 hours or so. Now, there is one catalyst that can explain some of this movement, but now that it's conflated with movements within the Mirage 2021 collection, it becomes a little bit more questionable as to who knows what. Sparkles released an April Fool's video in which he talked about souvenir knives and trade-ups for souvenir knives. And the video is well edited. Like, if you weren't paying attention, you could have fell for that shit very easily. And prices surged across the market for Mirage souvenir packages, but not really any other packages, at least to the extent Mirage did. And the accumulation happened like 8-9 hours after the video came out, which makes it even a little bit more fishy because, right, if you couldn't figure out April Fool's was today's date 9 hours after the video came out, it's your fault. So I think it's definitely time to start watching Mirage inputs. I wouldn't purchase anything right now because they're actively in the top movers, but if you do find something for a good price or like a low float one for a good price, it may be worth buying just to kind of hedge yourself against the possible chance that the Arabesque collection is Mirage, because it seems more and more likely by the day, considering especially Dust 2 received a rework. It was not in the premier map pool for Season 1. It received its fair share of works. Mirage hasn't. Mirage is the only map that hasn't, I believe, in the active map pool right now. Therefore, a Mirage rework seems likely soon, and I think it will get a rework before Dust 2 gets a new collection as well. Right, even if it doesn't pay off in the short term, I think that the Mirage collection will eventually get phased out, and I don't think that purchase will be in vain, although the timeline might increase. And with that, we move into last week's watch list. Now, I kept the watch list pretty light last week because we should have got an update, but we didn't. I mainly spoke about Tech9's, right? Tech9's was a pistol play that was, in the top movers across the entirety of last week. So I gave some pretty safe plays, and for the most part, they stayed pretty much even. Tech9 Mummy's Rot stayed pretty much sideways completely, right? It should be a +0, -0 gain there for that gun. Although that's in the Anubis collection, so it has legs to run in the future. Would definitely hold if you still have one. The second one, the Tech9 Fubar. This is a Danger Zone case mil-spec, and it has a very interesting float cap, which makes its minimal wear inputs eligible for factory new trade-ups. Also, this one stayed pretty much sideways on the week. The last one was the Tech9 Ice Cap. The Tech9 Ice Cap is from the Gamma case, I believe. It was around $2 in factory new, and it looked pretty underpriced, and it's in a case that is generally underappreciated, so I thought this play couldn't hurt. Again, the price stayed pretty much sideways, I think. There was a pump after the video I made, which I will just ignore for the sake of the results. The price pretty much stayed the same if you entered at the time before I made the video. Now, this week's watch list. The first one I'm going to talk about is the graphic design collection, of course, as I spoke about in yesterday's video. As we know, the M4 Polysoup received a visual upgrade, or reversion, back to where it was previously when the gun was first released, having its signature hollow effect reinstated. Right, this is a good play because it kind of compounds with the fact that the M4 is going to see more usage in general over the next few months because of the reload update. Right, this is one of the only guns in which the reload update actually positively affected, like explicitly. So I don't even think that field tested or a minimal wear Polysoup is going to steer you any wrong. But factory new is going to open you up to the potential of manipulation, right? They're not going to manipulate a minimal wear or field tested skin, especially when the float cap is low as it is, 0 to 0.64. The key inputs, as I spoke about yesterday, the SG Berry Gel Coat and the Scar 20 Wild Berry, I believe it's called. These are not 0 to 1, but they're the highest within its respective rarity tier, mil-spec, and you can use minimal wear outputs in order to get factory new Polysoups. A lot of CZ75s are being actively manipulated right now, and because the Polysoup is receiving a disproportionate amount of attention, and thus there will be more trade-ups attempted for the M4 Polysoup, the CZ75 Slalom might dip a little bit or might not receive as much attention as its peers within the CZ75 because it's a 33% chance to get the Polysoup, 33% chance to get the CZ, which will, in the short term at least, result in increased supply for that CZ, making it that much harder in order to manipulate. So watch out there, and if you have gains there, could be a good time to exit. The last thing to watch will be just cases in general, right? We'll talk about more of this on DE News on Sunday because we'll have more time and more data in order to discuss it. But this is a general move in price across the entire sector, which means that targets could change or they could stay the same. We'll just have to wait and see. But it will be interesting to see in how they respond to these movements, because a tiny shift in price can completely change how cases are opened by the general public, which is going to change Chinese behavior in terms of which skins they're going to target for manipulation. And with that, that's the news for today and the week breakdown on China. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments or join us on Twitch. The link will be in the pinned comment. Other than that, peace.